Stitchy friends. How's everybody doing? I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Today is Sunday, July 12th, 2026, and I am sitting down to do a little bit of stitching. In all honesty, I have already stitched a little bit of the new diagonal of my mystery stitch piece and got to a place where I thought maybe it'd be a little bit more exciting for you to see what I'm doing. So I decided to sit down and film a little stitch with you. So I hope you grab a project and get comfortable and get some great stitching in while we sort of chat, and I'll be stitching on my mystery full coverage piece. So as always, I'll have the image of the piece up here, hopefully a close-up of the area I'm working on, and we'll just start stitching. Now I will say today, I'm not sure how much you're actually going to be able to see of the stitching on the video, because there's a good portion of what I'm going to do is white on white, or sort of very like light colors on white. So we'll just see how it looks and how it goes. But I think in this video we will touch the very next motif that's coming into play. So you'll get just a slight glimpse of what is coming next. I don't think you'll be able to tell, but it should be kind of fun to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started stitching. Again, there probably will be some moments of silence where I'm just kind of counting or focusing on the stitching, but other moments of just chatting and hoping you're enjoying it and having a good time. So we'll begin. I've got my water over here to drink because it is a hot one today in New York again, and I need to stay hydrated. So I will be drinking that throughout the video, but let's just settle in and do some stitching. So thank you for being here. The first row of stitches that I'm working on here is some of these white stitches. So we'll see how much you're actually able to see of those. But I think we'll get into some other colors too as we hit the next motif in the next row or two. So hopefully that will begin to show up, and it might be a little fun to see that kind of take shape as I continue stitching. I hope you're all having a really nice weekend. Mine has been really lovely. For the first time since I started at the new job on Thursday and Friday, there was a little less work to do. And on Thursday, I actually was pretty caught up by about, 3 in the afternoon, and there wasn't a lot else going on, so it was actually kind of nice to have a little bit of downtime. And Friday, the office was just dead. Nobody was emailing at all after like 11 in the morning, and I think it's just part of the sort of summer Friday culture of the office, which is really nice, and really I'm really grateful for it. But Friday I was working from home, and so what that meant is I was actually able to get some stuff done around the apartment while I was working. So I was able to clean the apartment and just kind of tidy up some things, and that felt really nice to get that done without having to take up time on the weekend, which is when I normally do all that stuff. So that kind of started off my weekend in a great way. And then I had a lovely Zoom stitch with some people on Friday evening. That was fun. And then yesterday, I managed to go for a 10-mile run in Central Park. My favorite sort of loop to the park and back is about 10 miles. And, all week I've sort of been struggling with a cold, and you might still hear it a little bit in my voice. I don't know if you could tell it all on Monday night, because it sort of started on Tuesday morning. I woke up with a bit of a sore throat and just was kind of dealing with that all week long. Friday was the first day where I sort of felt my energy level coming back, and feeling like maybe it was on the mend. But my throat is fine now. It's just a little sinus cold, I think, that is sticking around. So you'll probably hear it in my voice a little bit, but otherwise I'm doing okay. But yesterday I decided, you know what, I haven't run all week because I've been fighting this cold, and I've been trying to just, sleep and get caught up and rest. And it felt so good to get back out there and just run on Saturday. So yeah, so that was really a nice way to kind of kick off the morning. And I came home, and of course, I had to make pancakes for myself after a long run. So, had pancakes and sausage for breakfast. Took Winston for his walk, and then I went and got my hair cut, which was much needed. It was getting to the point where it was getting too long in the back, and especially over the summer, that's like the worst when I'm running is the long hair on my neck. So, yeah, got a haircut, and then I had a lovely Zoom with my Patreon members for a couple hours, and that was just so nice. We had some new people join this week, and so it was fun to kind of have them join the regulars, and it's just always a good time of getting together and stitching and catching up with everybody, and it really has been a lot of fun. So that kind of all started the weekend off on just a very, very good note, which was nice. And yeah, then this morning I didn't really have some plans that I had scheduled for today fell through, and so I didn't have anything in particular lined up. And so I got up as soon as I could in the morning when Trader Joe's opened and went and did my grocery shopping to get that out of the way. And I came home, and Winston and I spent a little bit of time out on the patio or on our little deck, not really a patio, but because it was just so nice this morning. It was warm already, but the sun wasn't quite on the patio yet, and so the humidity isn't as bad today, and it was just pleasant to sit out there. So I sat out there, we just relaxed for a bit. Again, just a nice way to kind of start the weekend, or to start the day, I should say, because it's already Sunday. And then I sat down, when I came back inside, I sat down to do some stitching. And I think one of the most recent Stitch With Me's that I did, I was working on this top section right here of the frame. And I thought, well, that won't be the most interesting for you to see again, because that section is kind of just the same. So I thought maybe I'll try to get some stitching done and then film the Stitch With Me. So that is what I did, and I was able to start this diagonal and bring it all the way down into some of these whites of the background here. So there's not much background in this piece, I'll say that, but this white is part of the background section, so it's not a motif that I'm stitching there. But got enough of the white done, and then I thought, you know what, now we're getting pretty close to where the other motif will come in, so maybe that will be a better place to start. And, you know, with the white block stitching, it is a bit easier for me to stitch on that, so I figured now is a good time for a little Stitch With Me. So here we are. And that's pretty much my weekend. if you're interested in that. I will say, despite being a little under the weather this week, I had a good stitchy week. It was a lot of fun. I got to work on projects that I'm enjoying right now, and yeah, I feel pretty good about the progress. I don't know if I count the stitches how many it will be, but I enjoyed the week of stitching, I'll say that. So this coming week I might be a different story because my sister-in-law and my niece are coming into town. They're getting in late tonight, and then we're going to try to do dinner tomorrow evening, I believe. And so I probably won't get any stitching done tomorrow evening. And I'm not even sure if I will get my Flosstube filmed tomorrow night. So we'll have to see about that. Maybe that will come out on Tuesday this week. But yeah, it'll be so fun to have them in town, and I'm excited to get to have dinner with them. And they're here until I think Thursday, but I'm not sure what their schedule is going to be like, so I don't know if I'll get to see them another time or not, but it'll be nice to catch up with them and to see them here in the city, because most of the time when I see them, we're in Florida. And then, of course, next weekend is Midsummer Stitch, which I'm super, super excited for. I can't wait. I am also just a little nervous, I think, about the Q&A session. Just, yeah, my nerves just work on me a little bit, but I'm mostly excited to just get to chat with you all. I'm so glad Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot will be there with me, and yeah, it should be a really, really fun time. So I think Sarah and I are going to connect this week just to chat through some things. But of course, Midsummer Stitch will take up some time that might have been allocated towards stitchy time. Hopefully I'll get some stitching done there too, though, but we'll see. And yeah, so I just don't know what the next week will bring for my stitching, and that is totally okay. I will just take it 1 week or 1 day at a time and stitch when I can, because it will be there for me when I am ready, when life sort of slows down. Summer's just always a busy time. There's just a lot going on. People have a lot of things happening. A lot of my friends' birthdays are in the summer. And there's just this, it's a lot happening. So stitching will be there when I come back to it. But I don't have a lot of plans this afternoon. I think a friend and I are going to meet up for coffee, and that's, I think, the only plan I have today. So I might actually get some more stitching done on this later this evening, which would be nice. Always fun to build in some stitchy time with things. And yeah, so I'm going to take advantage of it while I can, because I know the next week is just going to be a very busy one for me. So I think Tuesday and Wednesday might be the only evenings I have free to be stitching. So okay, now I need to find out where I am. I think I'm here. This is where it gets really tricky, because there's you're trying to count off the white stitches, and it's like, oh, did I stitch that one or did I not? Because it's really hard to see. And I think because we're getting into the new motif here, I think that will mean I will be pulling a lot of new threads. So you'll have to bear with me, as there might be a lot more starting and stopping, because we're getting into a new motif, and that just means different colors, and that means starting and stopping threads. And I think even though there are a lot of different colors, they can be so similar to the white. Like this is actually 819, and this is a pink color. But of course, once you stitch it right next to all these whites, it actually pretty much just looks like it is a white stitch. Slightly different color, but... And that's what can make this section a little tougher. Now you'll see with that stitch, I had to pull pretty hard to get the knot in the back section when I did the one-stranded loop start. So what I do is just sort of fluff it up on the front after I have the knot pulled to the back, and that just kind of eases up the tension a little bit when I have to pull too hard like that. know a lot of you have been asking and caring for Winston a lot lately, and I thank you for all of the kind comments and just questions about him and how he's doing. And I will say he's pretty much back to his normal self now. He's doing really well. He's, walking normal, eating normal. He's just sort of back to his usual self, which is really, really great to see. So yeah, he's doing well. He, of course, is here on my chair, just sort of taking a nap again. I'll try to show him here in a little bit, if I can get the camera positioned on him. What about all of you? How, excuse me, I can still hear it in my throat a little bit too. How was your week? I hope you all had a good one. Let me know in the comments what you got up to or what was sort of a highlight of your week. I love hearing that. Or let me know what you've been up to this weekend. Are you enjoying the summer weather? Are you staying inside in the AC to stay cool? Are you staying inside to stay warm if you're in the winter months right now? As I've been sort of getting back to some stitching this week and, not really feeling 100%, so I was kind of stitching and watching TV as sort of a comfort thing, and I started watching Hacks on HBO, and it's just such a funny show. I believe her name is Jean Smart. I think that's correct. She's brilliant. She plays this female comedian who is sort of not past her prime, but like is just struggling with ageism in the comedy world and not performing as well as she once did in her prime. But it's such a funny show, and I've watched it before. I think I have watched all of it except for the new season that came out. But instead of just jumping right to the new season, I thought, you know what, it might be more fun to just go back and rewatch everything. So I started all the way back at season 1. I think there are 5 seasons, so I've just been going through that and enjoying watching that and laughing a little bit while I'm stitching. It's so funny when you're stitching these motifs, or when you're like getting into a new kind of motif, because there's all these different colors and you're like, well, that's not really the color of the motif. And as you're stitching it, you kind of wonder, is this actually gonna work? I'm not sure. And then once you get like the whole area done, then you see, oh yeah, it does work. These colors were sort of meant to be. So just gotta trust the process. Now you might wonder why I'm starting all the way down here in sort of like the middle of the block instead of my normal, stitch by stitch. I came down here and I'm stitching, right here. And that's because the flow of this color, it kind of ends right here, but then it flows up a little bit, and then it goes further over on this side. So if I start over here, then I can just work naturally over to this direction, whereas opposed if I start over here in my normal spot, then once I get here, I'm kind of stuck. I don't have anywhere to go unless I really carry my thread. So in times like that, I do make an exception to the stitching row by row, diagonal by diagonal, but that's only if in a case-by-case situation of what makes sense for the flow of the stitching. And again, there is no right or wrong to this. It's like whatever works for you, whatever works with your brain, and how you sort of want to stitch and like to stitch. So you make the rules as you go. There's like a set of rules for diagonal stitching, but they're more just guidelines of like, here's what you can do or how you can stitch, and then you just from there take it and make it what you can. And now that I'm looking at this, I think I put this in the wrong place. I did. I counted off the wrong pink. So I'm gonna have to frog that stitch. Sometimes when I'm frogging, especially just one stitch, I find it easier to just kind of cut it because I'm not going to lose that much floss. And then kind of try to pull it out from there. Perfect. So now let me make sure I'm counting at the right place now. And I think I actually have to wait on that one because there's another stitch in the way. So we'll come back to that color. Let me unmark it. Let's see where this one is going. And that happens sometimes, especially I think for me it happens more in these light colors where it is really hard to see. You know, I thought I was counting off of this pinkish stitch, but I was counting off of that slightly colored, different colored stitch. So yeah, it just happens. In the right place. Hopefully this isn't more confusing for you as I go through these stitches. Someone made a comment on my last Flosstube episode, which was episode number 100, if you haven't watched it, and said like, oh, how fitting will it be that for your 101 episode you will still be working on Cruella. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is so funny. 101 Dalmatians is what Cruella is from, and my 101st Flosstube I am still working on Cruella. So that was kind of a fun little thing. also thought about this week when I was not feeling well. One evening I thought maybe I should rewatch 101 Dalmatians while I'm in this part of the project. And then I remembered, no, Winston actually likes to watch the TV, and he watches the TV to look for animals or dogs on it, especially dogs. And then he'll bark at the TV like he's protecting me from these dogs that are coming into our house. And he even can detect the animated dogs. And so I thought, oh my goodness, if I put 101 Dalmatians on, he will go crazy because the dogs will be barking on the TV and he will be barking back at them. And so I declined to watch that. And instead, I think I just put on some music or something that night, and I needed a restful stitching session, not a stressful one. It's funny though, because he's always alert when the TV is on, and when I film these Stitch With Me videos, I have the close-up of the stitching on my TV from my phone so that I can just make sure I'm still in camera and in screen, and that I can see what I'm doing, sort of thing. And so when that's on the TV, he's not bothered by it. It's like he knows, okay, this is my nap time. There's nothing stressful coming on the TV. It's just Dad and his stitching. But as soon as I take it off that video, and as soon as I put on like HBO or Disney or something, it's like he knows immediately there's going to be things he needs to pay attention to on the TV. Dogs are so funny because some dogs I feel like don't even pay attention to the TV or don't even really care what's going on. They don't even really watch it. That's not the case with Winston. I was talking to a friend just last night about that, and he said, yeah, he has a Chihuahua as well, and he said, yeah, his Chihuahua also watches the TV. It sounds like she doesn't go quite as crazy as Winston does when she sees a dog or something, but he said she just likes to actually watch the TV. So she will just sit there and watch whatever show is on, like she's paying attention to it and understanding what's happening, which I also think is really funny. I said I'm going to have to start limiting Winston's TV time. He's having too much screen time. These are such interesting colors for this section, but I guess it makes sense. But these colors are not indicative of the next motif, really. I think they're just sort of transition colors as we switch from the background to the motif, and some of the shading that goes on in this section. So don't let that fool you if you're trying to guess. It's not necessarily these particular colors. honestly, I don't think we'll have guesses for the next like couple diagonals on this motif. It's a little bit before we get to more of the like the center-ish of it. But what's fun working in the diagonal on this piece as I get further, you know, so far it's basically just been frame, Cruella, frame, and then here we got into frame, Cruella, new motif a little bit. But what will be fun about this piece is as the diagonals kind of get larger and as I keep working through, it'll be like frame, one motif, one motif, one motif. It'll just keep coming. So I'm looking forward to that because that helps to switch things up where you're not just stuck in one motif the whole time. Although I will say I've really enjoyed stitching Cruella. I think she has been really fun. There's been parts of like high confetti, but also parts that weren't so bad, and I'm happy with how she looks. So overall I think that was actually kind of fun. I didn't mind just working on her. And it still ebbed and flowed because you had a little bit of the yellows in her coat, and then you had her face. So it's just nice with full coverage when you can, for me at least, when it's less block stitching, but more, not less block stitching, but where it's just constantly changing. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, other than that, my week was very normal. I think just because I wasn't feeling so well, I didn't really do very much, and I wasn't running because I wasn't feeling well, and yeah, so it just was kind of a very standard week, I would say. And I don't know, sometimes after a very eventful or stressful week, it's nice to just have one that's kind of standard with nothing too crazy happening, nothing too busy going on. Will say I'm still loving these cards. I'll try to put a link up here if you're interested in them. For full coverage, I'm still really loving them, especially when I have all of my needles, not all of them, but most of them have needles now with the thread already on them. That just makes it so much easier to just grab and go, and I'm so glad I tried these, to be honest. They're really working for me. You know, my Heaven and Earth design piece that I have, I'm working on the supersized Max Colors Marvelous Circus by Amy Stewart, and I do love the piece, and I do kind of want to get back to it, but now that I'm stitching from these floss cards, you know, the way that the Heaven and Earth kit was kitted up, because I bought a full kit of it, sorry I keep bumping the screen, it was on these like floss rings, or floss, yeah, kind of like cards but floss drops, And at the time I thought, oh, this is great. Like, I really like this. And even when I was stitching it, I thought, this is really a nice way for this all to be kitted up for all this floss. And now that I'm using these cards, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can go back to that floss drop system because it's just not quite as handy, I don't think. Some of you have also been asking about how I end my threads, and I will try to show that here, maybe. If this is still on camera, let's see. Yeah, so here where my needle came up. So this stitch I just did is just a single stitch, and if I was ending my thread on the back of my projects like I normally do, I'd have to flip over my Q-snap, flip over everything to run it underneath, and flip it all back over. Because I've got so many parked threads, I just want to be able to end it from the front. So what I do is I bring it up about 3 or 4 squares over, and I know that is a little bit of thread loss, that bit. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. This is all DMC, and it's not the end of the world if I lose a little bit of extra floss, because I like the time save of not having to flip my work back over. So I try to stay like almost as consistent with the line it ended in and bring it over to the side. And then I just bring my floss up like this. Then I go 2 stitches or 2 holes over, bring it back down. That just makes a little like back stitch almost and kind of locks it in there. And then I come up about 2 holes over again and pull it up. And then what I can do is just cut it a pretty short length. It just has to be long enough so that it doesn't slide back under the fabric. And that's secured now. And then, I have this little bit left, so I can put this back on my floss card because it's on a needle. And then if it comes back to this color and I just have 1 stitch, that's enough to do it. But I save the rest of the floss. And how that works is that when I get to this next diagonal, I will stitch over this section right here. So the thread is running along the back underneath here. And when I do the next diagonal, I will stitch over that in the back. And so it will lock it in and kind of secure it. And then when I get closer to these stitches, as I get to a diagonal where it will hit these, then I just take them out and kind of clip them. And I do that for the whole row before I start the diagonal so that they're all out of the way, and I don't have to keep doing that. But it allows me to, again, start to start and stop the thread from the front side, and I have to flip it over, and then it automatically secures the thread on the back because I'm stitching it over it in the next diagonal or 2. So that's kind of how I do that and why I do that, if you were wondering. This one will be in the next diagonal. See if there's any more of this color over here, and there is. So if the color is in like the next diagonal over or somewhere very close to it, then I will just pull it over there and park it as opposed to ending that thread. But if I do need to end it, then that's when I'll use the other method and end it from the front. Hopefully that's all kind of making sense, maybe. Gonna get a little bit more water. Wow, we're already 40 minutes in. Goodness, this time just flies by with you. I thought maybe we were like 15, 20 minutes in. I was like, I'm gonna run out of things to say today. which is okay too. If I run out of things to say, that's fine too. But they say time flies when you're having fun, and I guess, well, stitching is fun for sure, but stitching with all of you is a fun time for me, so it just goes by very quickly. I probably would try to do a longer one than just an hour or a little over an hour, but it seems like that's like the max capacity of that I can do for the video file sizes to transfer them to my computer. All of that can be kind of a lot. So an hour is what we'll stick to. So that is just like the tiniest little bit of the next motif. And like I said, we're not going to get into where you'll be able to like actually tell what it is for another diagonal or two. But now there's some more white block stitching. So hopefully you'll be able to see this a little bit. Funny because sometimes these like white stitches, they show up better on camera than they do in person, so maybe you're actually able to see it a little better than I am. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've already got a parked thread in this color, this white, but I'm going to start this new one anyway because there's so many stitches of the white in this area that I know I'll need the floss from both of them anyway. So I'm just going to start it and see how far this one actually gets me. And then I'll have the other one ready to go. Because yeah, I don't think there's much left on this strand that I had parked. So I'll use it up and then I'll just fill in the rest with the new strand. And that works really nice for an area of block stitching. It doesn't bother me as much to have sort of two threads of the same color going, but it can get a little complicated when you're in a high confetti area and then you have two strands of the same color going and you have to decide how to use both of them, because maybe you have one parked from the previous diagonal but it's lower down, and you have another one that you started with the newer stitches that were higher up, and then you end up with multiples of the same color going. And sometimes that can get a little tricky, or you know, you just don't really have enough stitches to use two strands of the same color. Apologize if you can hear my air conditioner in the background, but it was too hot today. I had to have it on while I was filming. So hopefully that's not too distracting. Or too loud, I should say. actually running into a place now where I have a third of the same color, because right here is a parked thread. So now I got to make some decisions of how to use 3 of the same color. But again, like I said, there's enough stitches of white in this area that I'm going to need all the floss eventually. So I'm not too worried about it. Just got to figure out a path that works to use all 3. And these 2 flosses, there's not much left of them, so. As a matter of fact, I think I'll just finish this row here, and then I'll have to end this one. I think if I don't end this now, I won't have enough floss to do my front ending. So just gonna end that one. And now I'm down to 2. This is the last row here that I'm working on of the white before we get into more of Cruella's hair. Back up here and finish the end of these white rows so that I can then carry this floss over to the next diagonal and save that for next time. these park threads again, getting into the edge of Cruella's hair. Might get a row or two of her hair completed here. I would love to know, have you all been stitching on Christmassy things in July for Jolly July or Christmas in July? I, as you know, have not yet, but I'm hoping to maybe just do one project, add a few stitches into it. One that I decided on for my Patreon members to vote on. But how about you? Have you been feeling the Christmas stitching? I've been watching some Flosstubes, and I know some people are really, really getting into the Christmas stitching, and others are not quite as much. I don't know why. The other years when Jolly July came around, I really wanted to to do Christmassy things. I was so looking forward to starting a new reindeer or getting back to some of my Christmas whips, and this time I just am not feeling it. And maybe it's because, because I had a lot of Christmas whips down in Florida with me, I continued to work on them throughout a lot of the spring. Well, some of them. And so maybe I just haven't had enough of a break from the Christmas stitching yet. I'm not sure. But I'm definitely not going to force myself to stitch on something that I just don't want to stitch on. There's another stitch of that, but it's pretty far down, so I'm going to just park this. And then I'll have this thread ready to go for next time to do a single stitch. I don't mind carrying too far, but this was a little further than I like to carry, so. And again, whether you carry or don't carry, that is all personal preference as well. You don't need to, you're not following any sort of rules or guidelines. It's just whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you don't mind stitching over in the back. Finishes that one, that row. I think I'll do one more row with you here, and then we'll probably end this video because I think this row is a lot of single stitches of colors. So this row will probably take a bit. Unfortunately, most of these colors I do not have parked, so. I don't know if you all watch Jen, the Caffeinated Crafter, but hers is one Flosstube I try to keep up with because I just really enjoy all of her projects, and I really enjoy hearing her talk about her plans and how she sort of sets everything up. But she is working on a lot of different full coverage pieces, but her main one is Honeymoon Sunset, and she's getting really far with it. It is looking really great, and it's been so much fun to just continue to see her make progress on that. I feel like that's been so motivating for me to just keep going, because the more you stitch on it, the more you actually do see the progress, and you really can accomplish these big pieces. I think when I start these big pieces, I always assume I might never finish them, and that's okay. I really do like the process of stitching on them, but seeing Jen sort of get close to, she's not close to finishing, but she's well on her way to being able to finish this piece, and it's massive. So I've just really enjoyed keeping up with her channel. And if you enjoy full coverage, I know you would like her channel. A few stitches of 310 in here. I don't think I've used 310 very much yet in this project. There is 41,000 stitches in 310, it looks like, according to my markup. So that's a lot of black stitching. But so far, I don't actually think I've done that many. I don't know how well you can hear outside because I do have the windows closed and the AC on, but I can hear the birds chirping out there, and it reminds me that this morning on my walk to Trader Joe's to get groceries, the birds were just out chirping like crazy. I don't know what it was about this morning, but they were all very excited and very, very vocal today, which was very fun. They were even that way when I was walking Winston. At one point, I think even he sort of heard how loud they were being. It was like, where are all these birds coming from? Where are these noises coming from? He does love to chase the birds when we're out there. I've got a stitch in the wrong place, or a floss in the wrong place here, but I'm going to deal with that once I get to that section. I'm not going to deal with that right now. There was a color in the stitch that I needed to park that color with, so I know that I was wrong with the other color. Or I know that something's out of whack because there's already a thread in that stitch and it's not the same color. A lot of times when that happens, I just miss count, and so it's off by like a stitch or two, and so I can kind of figure it out pretty easily once I get to it by just looking around the area for where that color is. So hopefully that will be the case, but there's too many parked threads above it right now, and I'll deal with that when I get to it. Luckily, of the black stitch, there were 2 stitches in a row, so I could just park it in the other stitch. Kind of get around it for the moment. Well, here's a little bit of yellow, so I think what we're sort of transitioning over to now is I think there's a little bit more of her yellow coat on this side of her hair, which I'm assuming is what these yellows are kind of getting to. So I guess we're working more kind of in that transition than in her hair itself. Her hair does extend down a little bit further here, but I think then there's a little bit of the coat on this side. That will be fun to get back into some of those yellows. Okay, and I think we've got one more color here that I need to pull. Then I'll finish off this row and we will call it a day for stitching. Well, for stitching with you. I will, like I said, I probably will have a little bit more time to stitch tonight. And likely I will just continue working on this project. I've kind of enjoyed dedicating a whole day to this because it allows me to really see some progress. And if I've already got everything out, it's just easier to continue on this one than switch to a different project. So if I get some more stitchy time tonight, it will be on this piece. And again, for all of you watching this, if you don't see my Flosstube video on Tuesday morning, know that maybe it will come on Wednesday morning because I might have to film on Tuesday evening since I'm having dinner with family tomorrow night. So don't be alarmed, but it just might be a day delayed this week. I'll still try to get it out for you though. I just thought about this, but I don't know if I will be able to tell you how many stitches I got done in this specific session today because markup counts your stitches for the whole day and I've already been working on this piece. So I will tell you total how many stitches I've done in this piece, but that includes the stitching from earlier in the morning. So I won't have an exact count. But there we go. So we got this little section done right in here. We got some of these colors added in for the new motif that's coming in, and we got back into some of the yellows, a little bit of her hair done. So I think that's pretty good. So far today on this piece, I have added 301 stitches. That's a great stitchy session for this piece. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I will talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, or if you're not watching this until Monday morning or sometime next week, I hope you're having a lovely week, and I will talk to you soon. Oh, I almost forgot to show you Winston again. He is right here, sleeping, getting his rest. So have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you again soon. All right, bye.